You assume you'll never be caught leaving a homeless shelter. But then a familiar voice cuts through the winter morning like a knife. My grandfather screamed from his luxury SUV, demanding to know why I was there. The terror wasn't his anger. It was discovering he believed I was living in a townhouse he'd gifted me over a year ago. A townhouse I'd never even seen. My name is Emma Hayes. I'm 24 years old. And until 10 minutes ago, I thought my biggest problem was hiding the fact that I'd just spent the night on a cot that smelled of industrial bleach and stranger's sweat. To understand how I ended up here, you have to rewind the tape. You have to go back 5 months. The morning air was a physical assault, the kind of February wind that tried to crawl inside your bones. I pushed open the heavy steel door of Harbor Light Student Haven and stepped onto the cracked sidewalk. The door slammed shut behind me with a metallic clang that sounded like a prison sentence ending. I adjusted my backpack, everything I owned, 2 anatomy textbooks, hospital scrubs, a toothbrush, and a half-eaten granola bar. I was transitional, the caseworker Sarah called it. Not homeless. Just experiencing housing instability. The reality was the concrete building behind me and the sign announcing exactly what kind of charity case you were. I kept my head down. Walk fast, blend in. Don't let anyone see your worn-out shoes. I made it 3 steps before I froze. A black SUV sat at the curb, gleaming, expensive alien on this street. A man stood beside it in a wool coat that probably cost more than my tuition. Robert Hayes, my grandfather. My heart hammered. I thought I was hallucinating from lack of sleep. But then he turned, his steel-gray eyes locking onto mine, then onto the shelter sign behind me. His face showed profound, earth-shattering disbelief. "Emma," he said. His voice cut through the wind like a scalpel. I couldn't move. I clutched my backpack straps, white-knuckled. I was wearing a thrift store coat with a broken zipper, scuffed boots. I looked exactly like what I was, someone who'd fallen through the cracks. "Emma!" The volume made me flinch. People turned to stare. My face burned with shame. "Grandpa," I whispered, trying to stand straighter. "What are you doing here?" He ignored the question, closing the distance between us. Up close, he looked older, but the intensity remained. "What are you doing here?" He pointed at the building. "I saw you come out of there. That's a shelter, Emma. That's a place for the destitute." "I'm fine," I lied quickly. "It's complicated. I'm okay." "You're living in a shelter." An accusation, not a question. "It's temporary, just until I get my clinical rotation schedule sorted. It's closer to the hospital." "Convenience?" He repeated the word like it was obscene. "You're sleeping in a shelter for convenience?" "Please, Grandpa. People are staring." "Let them stare!" he roared. Robert Hayes didn't roar. He didn't make scenes. Seeing him lose control was more terrifying than the volume itself. "I don't care who stares," he said, voice dropping to a dangerous, trembling low. "I care about why my granddaughter looks like she hasn't eaten in 6 months." He stared at me, searching for something he recognized. Then confusion hardened into something sharp. "Where is the house?" he asked. I blinked. "What?" "The house, Emma. The townhouse in Briarcrest Heights?" I had no idea what he was talking about. Briarcrest Heights was expensive. Heated driveways, manicured lawns. The kind of place my sister Jessica fantasized about. "I don't understand," I said. "Don't play games," he snapped. "I bought it for you last year. Your 23rd birthday. 3 bedrooms, fully paid, deed in your name. I sent the keys and paperwork to your mother because I was in Tokyo." The world tilted. Dizziness that had nothing to do with hunger. "You what?" "The townhouse," he articulated slowly. "I sent everything to Patricia to give to you." I stood on the freezing sidewalk, mind blank. My 23rd birthday. I'd worked a double shift. Come home to the pull-out couch where I slept because Jessica needed the bedroom. I'd waited for Grandpa's call. It never came. I'd gotten a dollar store card from my mother. Nothing else. "Grandpa," I said, voice trembling. "I never got a house. I never got keys. Mom gave me a card. She said you were busy. She said you forgot." He froze. The only sound was the idling engine. "I never got anything," I whispered. Robert Hayes stared at me. Emotions crossed his face. Shock, confusion, then terrible icy clarity. He looked at the shelter, at my boots, at the year that had passed while I scrubbed toilets and skipped meals and a paid-off house sat somewhere with my name on it. "Patricia," he murmured. Then, with venom, "David." The realization hit him before it hit me. I was still grappling with a house existing. He was already grappling with theft. "They told me you were living there," he said, terrifyingly quiet. "Every time I asked, Patricia said you loved it. She said you hired a decorator. She said you were happy." "I've been homeless for 4 months," I said. The confession broke out. "They kicked me out. They said they needed space for Jessica. They said I needed to learn independence." His jaw tightened until I saw muscle feather beneath skin. Color drained from his face, leaving pale rage that looked like grief. "Independence," he spat. He looked at me one last time. Didn't offer a hug. He wasn't a hugger. Offered action. "Get in the car." "I have my shift." "Get in the car." The voice that built skyscrapers. I climbed into the back seat. Warmth hit me instantly, wrapping around frozen limbs. The leather smell replaced bleach. The seat's softness shocked my body, conditioned to hard surfaces so much I almost sobbed. Grandpa got in front. "Go," he told James, the driver. "The Pierre Hotel." As we pulled away, I looked out the tinted window. The shelter disappeared. I leaned back against heated leather, a single tear escaping. The warmth wasn't relief. It was torture, because it showed me exactly what had been stolen. Grandpa sat rigid in the front seat. I could see his eyes in the rearview mirror, not looking at the road but burning with cold, calculating fire. I knew that look, a man about to burn something to the ground, and I was ready to hand him the matches. My alarm screamed at 4:30 a.m., a time that feels like punishment, not mourning. Every day started the same. Roll off the pull-out couch in my parents' den, back aching from the metal bar digging into my spine. Stumble to the kitchen in darkness. Make the cheapest instant coffee, burnt dirt and battery acid, but I drank it black because milk cost money. I was in my final year at Lakewood Institute of Health, a rigorous nursing program that weeded out weakness. I could see the finish line, but to get there, I had to survive a schedule that would kill most people. 6 a.m., clinical rotations at Northbridge Medical Center. 8 to 10 hours on my feet, changing bedpans, turning patients twice my weight, drawing blood from collapsing veins. I was invisible, just hands in blue scrubs. But I loved it. The precision, the rules. Follow protocol, the patient survives. Calculate correctly, the pain stops. Such contrast to my chaotic life. 3 p.m. Strip off scrubs, change into black polo and non-slip shoes. Drive my dying sedan across town to the Rusty Spoon Diner. 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Dinner rush. Running, carrying trays, smiling until my face hurt. Apologizing for things that weren't my fault. Calculating tips in my head. $3 here, $5 there. If lucky, $60 or $70 cash. That money didn't go to savings. Gas tank. Textbook fund. The family pot. 10 p.m. Third shift nobody knew about. Midnight gleam facilities. Cleaning office buildings after everyone went home. Vacuuming miles of carpet. Emptying hundreds of trash cans. Wiping glass conference tables where men like my grandfather made million-dollar deals. Finished around 2 a.m. 3 to 4 hours sleep. Studied in break rooms by phone light because motion sensors kept turning off. My hands shook constantly. Caffeine overdose and caloric deficit. Always hungry. Not snack hungry. The kind where your stomach cramps and your head floats 2 inches above your neck. The only reason I survived was Robert Hayes. My grandfather paid tuition directly to Lakewood, thousands of dollars each semester. The only thing keeping me tethered to a future. If I could just graduate, get the license, I'd have salary, benefits, freedom. But the hardest part wasn't the work. It was going home. I lived with my parents, David and Patricia Hayes, supposedly to save money. The joke was that living there wasn't free. Every month, first of the month, I placed an envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside, $650, the family contribution. For groceries, utilities, wear and tear. To teach responsibility. $650, more than a room near campus. But whenever I suggested moving out, the guilt trip began. Mom's blood pressure. Dad's talk about family sticking together. How my sister needed help. Jessica, 26 years old, beautiful, pampered, unemployed. Finding herself. Exploring creativity. Last month, jewelry designer. This month, lifestyle blogger. She lived in the master bedroom with her husband Tyler Brooks, also unemployed. An entrepreneur, meaning he sat on the sofa in boxers playing video games, talking about cryptocurrency and passive income streams. They paid zero rent. One night, 3 a.m., I came home from scrubbing law firm floors. Smelled like disinfectant and sweat, feet throbbing. Tyler sat at the kitchen island eating $25 artisan pizza. Didn't offer me a slice. You look like hell, Emma. I opened the fridge. Nearly empty. Expired milk, pickles, my yogurt, labeled with my name, gone. Hey, Tyler pointed at me. Since you're up, internet's acting weird. Reset the router? I'm mid-raid. I stared. The expensive pizza, new gaming headset, unopened bills on the counter that my parents would stress over before asking if I could chip in extra for heating. I have to be up in 2 hours, Tyler. Right, the grind. He smirked condescendingly. You're working too hard for peanuts. Trading time for money, loser's game. I was telling Jessica, we need to get you into drop shipping. I'm going to bed. I walked away before I shoved pizza down his throat. That was my life. The baseline. Normal. I didn't know it was about to get so much worse. Decisions in the Hayes household weren't discussed. They were handed down like commandments, usually while I was doing something for them. Tuesday evening, I stood at the stove stirring marinara sauce because Mom's wrist was flaring up. Jessica sat at the island scrolling her phone. Tyler watched a billionaire documentary in the living room. My father, David, walked in, didn't look at me, looked at the air above my head. Emma, he cleared his throat. Your mother and I have been looking at numbers. Cost of living is skyrocketing. Heating oil, groceries, property tax. It's unsustainable. I kept stirring. I knew where this was going. We're adjusting your contribution, starting next month, $650. I stopped stirring. The sauce bubbled, spitting red onto the stove. $650, I repeated slowly, turning around. That's a 30% increase. I'm barely making $500. Don't use that tone. His voice dropped an octave. We're not gouging you. We're surviving. Do you know what milk costs? I did know, because I bought the milk. The contribution was supposed to cover groceries, but I always ended up shopping because the fridge stayed empty. I can't afford it, I said. I'm saving for board exams. Study guides alone are $200. My mother, Patricia, entered, holding her wrist delicately. She looked between us, face settling into exhausted martyrdom. Emma, honey. She touched David's arm, united front. We're not trying to hurt you. Property tax went up $4,000 this year. The furnace died. We're drowning. For one moment, I saw real stress in her eyes. Maybe they were struggling. Maybe I was being selfish. Then Jessica walked in, carrying a shopping bag. Rigid, embossed silver logo. From a boutique where socks cost $40. Is that new? I pointed with the sauce-covered spoon. Jessica clutched it to her chest, defensive. This? It's an investment. For my image. Tyler and I have investor meetings next week. I can't look like a ragamuffin. She looked at me pointedly. Appearances matter, Emma. Just because you live in scrubs doesn't mean we give up on civilization. So you can buy designer clothes. My voice rose. But I cover the heating bill? Patricia's expression changed instantly. Stress evaporated, replaced by sharp disapproval, aimed at me. Stop attacking your sister. Jessica has a family to think about, a husband, a reputation. When you're married, you'll understand pressure. Pause. Right now you're single. You only worry about yourself. You have it easy. Blood drained from my face. Easy? I whispered. I work 3 jobs, sleep 3 hours. That's your choice, David interjected smoothly. You chose this career path. We supported you, gave you a home. Now we ask for help and you act like we're robbing you. He shook his head, disappointed. You're being incredibly selfish. It's honestly sad, Jessica added. This whole poor me complex. If you managed time better, 650 would be nothing. They came at me from 3 sides. Masterclass deflection. I pointed out math. They talked emotion. I talked fairness. They talked duty. I talked exhaustion. They talked their stress. By the end, I wasn't the victim of a rent hike. I was the ungrateful daughter bankrupting her aging parents. I agreed. I always agreed. That night, 1:30 a.m., I couldn't sleep. Heard voices from the back porch. Parents. Thought everyone was asleep. I moved to the kitchen shadows. She looks so thin, David. Mom's voice. Shallow worry. Maybe ease up. Just 1 month. My heart leaped. Maybe they did see me. No, David said. Calm. Steady. You coddle her, that's the problem. But she's working herself to death. If she gets too comfortable, she'll leave. Get that degree and vanish. You want to lose the income? Silence. No, Patricia whispered. Then stay the course. Jessica and Tyler need our help. Jessica's launch is close. Once that takes off, we'll ease up. But until then, he paused. The harder it is for Emma, the more she needs us. The more she needs us, the longer she stays. I stood in darkness, hand pressed against the wall for stability. They weren't bad with money. They weren't just favoring Jessica. They were farming me, deliberately keeping me on survival's edge so I'd never have resources to leave. They didn't love me. They were training me to be a permanent servant. I didn't cry. Crying meant sadness. I wasn't sad anymore. I was something else. I walked back to the den, lay on the couch, whispered to darkness, just get through this year, get the license. Then, run. But I didn't know how little time I had left. The silence on my 23rd birthday wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. The pressure dropped before a tornado. For as long as I could remember, Robert had a ritual. No matter where in the world, London, Singapore, he called at exactly 8 a.m. on my birthday. Clockwork precision, punctuality as respect. Even as a child, he'd call and treat me like an adult, asking about grades, goals, plans. That morning, I sat on the pull-out couch, phone in hand. Screen black. I checked signal. Full bars. Volume. All the way up. I waited. 8 o'clock came and went. 8:15. 8:30. I told myself he was busy. Old man running a multinational empire. Maybe a meeting ran late. Maybe time zone miscalculation. But deep down, I knew Robert Hayes didn't make calculation errors. By 9 o'clock, the silence felt like physical weight. Mom stood at the counter slicing grapefruit. Didn't look up when I entered. No cake, no balloons, but the lack of acknowledgement hung like smoke. Did Grandpa call the house line? My voice sounded small. Patricia paused, knife mid-air. Turned to me, wiping hands on a towel. Expression perfectly composed. Casual indifference perfected over years of social climbing. Oh, Emma. Happy birthday. She set down the knife. No, he didn't call. He sent an email to your father and me this morning. He emailed you? Why didn't he call me? He always calls. He's traveling, she said smoothly, turning back to her grapefruit. Some executive retreat, digital detox, Swiss Alps, I think, or the Andes. Signals non-existent. He said he couldn't reach out personally but sent best wishes. The story was plausible but felt wrong. Too slippery. Robert scoffed at digital detoxes, called them excuses for lazy management. He had a satellite phone specifically to never be out of reach. He has a satellite phone, I said carefully. Must be broken, Patricia said, slicing through rind with wet squelch. Or maybe he wanted peace. He's getting older. You can't expect him to climb a mountain to say happy birthday. That's a little selfish, don't you think? The twist, the accusation. I swallowed protest. Did he mention anything else? Just best wishes. She cut me off, reached into a drawer, pulled out a card, slid it across without looking. From us, generic flower card. Inside, in Mom's looping handwriting, Happy 23rd, love, Mom and Dad. That was it. No check, no gift, $3 card stock. I went to work feeling strange dislocation. Not just that he hadn't called, the feeling that a lifeline had been cut. Checked email a dozen times during diner shift. Nothing. Checked voicemail. Empty. Home at 11 p.m. Usually dark at this hour, but living room lights blazed. Jessica sat on the floor, surrounded by papers, brochures, floor plans, fabric swatches, eyes bright and manic. She scrambled to cover papers with a magazine when she saw me. Not fast enough. I saw glossy real estate marketing. What's all this? Just ideas, Jessica said quickly, forced smile. Tyler and I are visualizing, manifesting, for the future. I stepped closer. One brochure slid out. Header in gold foil. Briarcrest Heights. My breath hitched. The most exclusive development in the city. Gated community. Cheapest unit, $500,000. You're manifesting Briarcrest Heights? I asked slowly. Jessica, those places are insane. HOA fees alone exceed what I make monthly. Stop being a buzzkill, she snapped, clutching papers to chest. Tyler has big things in the pipeline. We're looking at options. Nothing wrong with dreaming. Just because you're content in squalor doesn't mean we have to be. I'm not content. I'm realistic. Reality's boring, she said, standing with papers tight. And for your information, we're closer than you think. She walked past, humming. Light, airy, happy. Jessica never hummed unless she'd won something. I watched her disappear upstairs. The way she held those papers, possessively, secretly, made my neck hair stand up. Not just a dream board, specific layouts, red circles on floor plans, measurements and margins. People don't circle outlet placements on dream boards. I tried calling Grandpa's cell before bed. The subscriber you are trying to reach is not accepting calls at this time. Not voicemail. A block. I lay on the pull-out couch, thin blanket pulled over me. A terrible thought. What if he hadn't forgotten? What if he'd been prevented from remembering? The end of my life as I knew it came with a pizza party. Sunday evening, 2 weeks after I'd found the steamed open letter in the mail pile. 2 weeks after Jessica's brochures. I walked in after a hospital double shift, feet throbbing. The living room was transformed, boxes everywhere, brown cardboard towers labeled in Jessica's bubbly handwriting, kitchen, master bedroom, fragile, Tyler's man cave, parents on the couch sharing pepperoni pizza with Jessica and Tyler, champagne open on the coffee table, festive mood, like lottery winners. I stood in the doorway, backpack sliding off my shoulder. What's going on? Jessica looked up, pizza halfway to mouth. Grinned, pepperoni stuck to her lip. We're moving! Not a plan, a victory. Patricia stood, smoothing her skirt, champagne in hand. Flushed, happy, detached from my existence. Oh, Emma, you're home! We were celebrating! It happened so fast. Tyler and Jessica found the perfect place. A house, a real house. They asked us to move in. I blinked, processing. You're moving in with Jessica? To help with the future, David chimed from his armchair, looking smug. They'll need help starting a family. Honestly, this house is too much work for us. Time to downsize, or upsize into multi-generational arrangement. Very European. A house? I looked at Jessica. How can you afford one? You don't have jobs. Investments, Tyler said, leaning back, patting his stomach. Smart moves, passive income, you wouldn't understand. Anyway, Patricia interrupted, voice bright and brittle. We close in 3 days. Movers come Wednesday. Exciting! I scanned box labels. Mom and Dad's room, Jessica's closet, Tyler's office, no, my name. I walked further in, stepping over packing tape. Where are my boxes? Silence. Chewing stopped. Air thinned. Patricia sipped champagne, not looking at me, looked past my left ear. Well, she began, that reasonable teacher tone for bad news. We talked about this. As a family. We realized, David said, standing, united front. This is the perfect opportunity for you. Opportunity for what? Cold spread through my stomach. To launch. David gestured like a rocket. Fly from the nest. You're 24, Emma, an adult, not healthy living with parents. We're moving into a new phase, Patricia added. Jessica and Tyler starting their life. We're retiring, and you need your own path. You're leaving me behind. So dramatic, Jessica rolled her eyes. Not abandoning you on a desert island, just moving to a house without room for a permanent guest. Guest? I choked. I pay rent more than anyone here. Exactly why you're ready, David said, hand on my shoulder, heavy, condescending. You've proved you can contribute. You have jobs. You're capable. If we keep letting you live here, we're crippling you, enabling you. Enabling me to what? Survive while finishing school? I have 4 months left. 4 months until graduation. Can't I come for 4 months? Patricia looked away. David pushed forward. There's no room. Layout specific. Master for Jessica and Tyler, guest suite for us. 3rd bedroom's a nursery. Nursery? I looked at Jessica's stomach. You're pregnant? We're manifesting, Jessica said brightly. Preparing the space. Can't have your stress and erratic schedule messing up the vibe. I'll sleep on the couch, I begged, hating myself but panic rising. On the floor, just 4 months. I'll pay $800. No, David said, finality like a slamming door. It's not about money. If we took your money, we'd fail you as parents. You need to stand on your own feet, feel the hunger. That's how you build character. Pause for effect. Years from now, you'll thank us. You'll say, thank you, Mom and Dad, for pushing me to be great. I have nowhere to go, voice trembling. No savings. You know that because I gave it all to you last week for heating. You have friends, Patricia suggested. She moved to Ohio 2 years ago. Well, you'll figure it out. You're smart. A survivor. That's your gift, Emma. You don't need us like Jessica does. Jessica's sensitive. You're tough. Using my own endurance against me. Because I'd survived their neglect, they decided I didn't need care. When do I leave? Wednesday, David said. Movers at 8. House needs to be empty. 3 days. Ideally sooner, Jessica said, picking at sofa thread. Don't want your clutter mixed with our stuff. Super helpful if you're out tomorrow night. I looked at them. My family. My blood. I'd spent 3 years destroying my health to help them keep this house. They were discarding me like furniture that didn't fit the new aesthetic. Fine, I said. I'll go. I turned toward the hallway. Wait, Emma, Patricia called. I stopped. Give me the address of the new place, I said without turning, for forwarding mail. Father and mother exchanged a look. Quick, sharp signal. No, David said. I turned slowly. What? We're not giving you the address? Why not? Because if you have it, you'll use it as a crutch, David said, crossing arms. Show up for laundry, dinner, when you're short on cash. We need a clean break, for your sake. You need to know, Patricia added gently, like doing me a favor, that you can't run back to Mommy and Daddy. I stared. They weren't kicking me out. They were erasing me. I hope it's a nice house, I said quietly. It's magnificent, David smiled. I walked to the den, closed the door, started packing my life into garbage bags. The intake coordinator at Harbor Light Student Haven had kind eyes but didn't look at me long. She'd seen 1,000 versions of me. Bed in the women's dorm, she said, typing. Bed 42. You get a locker. Out by 7 every morning, back at 6 evening. How long can I stay? Technically 30 days, but we extend if you're showing progress, employment, school attendance. It's temporary, I said like a mantra. Just a few weeks. Until my paycheck. Until I find a room. Sure, honey. She didn't believe me. I walked into the dorm. Large gymnasium, rows of metal cots. Smelled of bleach, unwashed feet, damp wool, women everywhere. Some young like me, some old, some talking to themselves, some sleeping, arms wrapped around heads, trying to block out the world. Bed 42, middle of a row, thin mattress covered in plastic, gray wool blanket folded at the foot. I sat down. Plastic crinkled loudly. I pulled my backpack onto my lap, hugged it to my chest. A woman 3 beds away coughed. Deep, wet, rattling. I closed my eyes, trying to block it out. Tried imagining where my parents were now. Probably finishing champagne. Laughing about handling the Emma situation. Packing for a house I'd never see. They were warm. Together. The worst part, the part making tears finally spill hot down my cold face, wasn't that they'd kicked me out. It was that they didn't know where I was. I was bed number 42 in a shelter on the wrong side of town, and nobody was looking for me. I checked my phone one last time before battery died. No missed calls, no texts, just time glowing in darkness, 11:47 p.m. I pulled the scratchy blanket over myself, whispered to the dark ceiling. Just a few weeks. But as lights went out and the shelter filled with strangers breathing, I knew I was lying. I was in the hole now, and the walls were very, very high. But then, 3 weeks later, a woman with steel gray hair and sharp eyes stopped me as I organized the pantry during my volunteer hour. Sarah Mitchell, the counselor. "You have a system," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "You're not just surviving, Emma. You're managing. That tells me you're used to chaos." She looked at me carefully. "Write it down," she said. "Everything. The dates, the times, the money. Memory lies, paper doesn't." She handed me a spiral notebook. "If you ever want to get out of this hole and stay out, you need a record of how you fell in." I took the notebook, and I started writing. 3 weeks at Harbor Light Student Haven. 3 weeks of learning the rhythm. Wake at 6 a.m., fold your blanket with military precision, empty your locker, be out by 7. Return at 6 p.m., claim your cot before someone else does. Sleep light, trust no one. But I was good at rules. I'd spent 3 years following impossible schedules. This was just another system to master. Sarah Mitchell, the counselor with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, found me one evening in the shelter's common room. I was organizing my receipts, every coffee, every bus fare, every granola bar, laying them out on the scratched table like evidence. "You have a system," she said, sitting across from me. "Most people who come through here are drowning. You're treading water with 100 pounds of bricks on your back." I kept organizing. "I'm managing." "That's the problem." She leaned forward. "You've been trained to manage the unmanageable. Somebody did that to you." I looked up. Her eyes were kind but unnervingly perceptive. "Write it down," she said. She pulled a spiral notebook from her bag and slid it across the table. "Everything. Dates, times, money, conversations. Memory lies, especially when you're traumatized. Paper doesn't lie." I stared at the blank cover. "If you ever want out of this hole, really out, not just temporarily, you need a record of how you fell in." That night, I started writing. November 1st, rent increased to $650, was $500. November 3rd, my payment, $650. November 3rd. Jessica's Instagram. Spa day with hubby, self-care. Sunday. December 10th, asked mom for $180 textbook loan. Denied. We have 0 disposable income. December 10th, mom's Venmo to Jessica, $300 for hair appointment. January 15th, told to leave. For my own good. To build character. January 16th, first night at Harbor Light. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in chemicals. Every time I paid, Jessica spent double. Every time I asked for help, I was denied. Then they funded her investments. I wasn't just contributing to household expenses. I was subsidizing my sister's fantasy life while they slowly starved me out. I kept writing, the notebook filled with evidence, with proof that I wasn't crazy, wasn't selfish, wasn't imagining the systematic extraction of everything I had. But I still didn't understand the full scope of what they'd stolen. Not yet. I was running on fumes, literally and figuratively. It was late afternoon, end of my clinical rotation at Northbridge Medical Center. I'd just finished an 8-hour shift where I'd held the hand of a woman dying of sepsis, watched the monitor flatline, helped the resident call the time of death. I was walking to the bus stop through the employee parking lot when I saw it. A black Lincoln Town Car. Immaculate. Expensive. The kind of car that didn't belong in this part of the city. A man in a driver's cap was loading a folded wheelchair into the trunk. I froze. James. Robert's driver for 30 years. The man who used to sneak me peppermint candies when I was 8, riding in the back seat to piano lessons. I should have kept walking. I looked like hell. Unwashed hair pulled into a bun, hollow cheeks, coat held together with safety pins because the zipper finally gave up. But I was desperate for any connection to the grandfather who used to protect me. James? He turned. His weathered face broke into surprised recognition. Miss Emma! He closed the trunk and walked over, pulling off his glove to shake my hand. My goodness, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you? The kindness in his voice almost broke me. Busy, I managed. Clinical rotations are intense. I bet. He studied my face, and I saw his smile falter slightly. Your grandfather talks about you all the time, so proud of his granddaughter, the nurse. My heart lurched. He does? Oh, constantly. Brags to everyone at the club. James chuckled. Then, more carefully, how's the house? The townhouse in Briarcrest? Mr. Hayes was so excited about that gift. The world tilted. What townhouse? James's expression shifted. Confusion, then concern. The one he bought you. For your birthday last year. 3 bedrooms, beautiful place. I remember driving him to the title company last February to sign the papers. He smiled at the memory. He said, James, this is for Emma. She needs a sanctuary. I thought it was wonderful. I couldn't breathe. The parking lot spun. I never got a townhouse. I never got any keys. James went very still. 30 years with Robert Hayes had taught him how to read between lines, how to see betrayal hiding in plain sight. Where are you living, Miss Emma? He asked quietly. I couldn't lie to him, not to James, who'd driven me to school recitals, who'd waited in parking lots while I took exams, who'd always treated me with more kindness than my own parents. Near the hospital, I said, for convenience. He looked at my coat held together with pins, at my worn-out shoes, at the exhaustion carved into my face. Your mother told Mr. Hayes you were living in the townhouse, he said slowly. She said you loved it. She sent him photos of you decorating it. I've never seen it, I whispered. James's jaw tightened. Miss Emma, your grandfather's number. It's not disconnected. Your mother had it blocked on your phone. I've heard her tell him you're too busy to talk, that you're thriving, that you're happy. The betrayal wasn't just theft. It was erasure. They'd built a wall between me and the one person who actually cared. If you need to reach him, James said carefully, his direct business line, the one at his office. Your mother doesn't have access to that. He pulled out a business card, wrote a number on the back. Call this. Leave a message with his executive assistant, Mrs. Chen. Tell her James sent you. She'll get you through. I took the card with shaking hands. Thank you, I whispered. James squeezed my shoulder gently. He doesn't know, Miss Emma. He doesn't know what they've done to you. As he drove away, I stood in the parking lot holding that card like a lifeline. And finally, I understood. I didn't go back to the shelter immediately. I went to the public library, sat at a computer in the back corner, opened an incognito browser window. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely type. Briarcrest Heights property records public information. Anyone could access it. I just had never thought to look. The county assessor's website loaded slowly. I entered the address, 42 Briarcrest Lane. The screen populated with information. Property owner, Emma Hayes Brooks. Hayes Lifestyle LLC. Transfer. Date, May 15th, 3 months after my birthday. Purchase price, $1. Previous owner, Hayes Family Trust. My vision blurred. They'd transferred it for $1. From Grandpa's trust to a company I'd never heard of. I clicked deeper. Articles of Incorporation for Brooks Hayes Lifestyle, LLC. Registered agents, Tyler Brooks, Jessica Hayes. Business purpose, real estate management and boutique retail operations. They'd started a company, used my sister's maiden name and Tyler's last name, formed an LLC specifically to steal my house. But how? You couldn't just transfer property. The owner had to sign. I'd never signed anything. I searched more, found the quitclaim deed filed with the county. There it was, my signature. Emma Hayes, in looping script above the notary seal. I stared at it. It looked like my signature, the same loop on the E, the same slant on the final S. But it wasn't mine. The pressure was wrong, too deliberate. Like someone had practiced in a notebook 50 times, then drawn it carefully, holding their breath. They'd forged my signature. I kept searching. Found the mortgage documents. My house, my name technically still on some paperwork, had been used as collateral for a $300,000 home equity line of credit. $300,000, loan purpose, business expansion and property improvements. I pulled up Jessica's Instagram, scrolled back through the last 6 months. June, new car shopping, #blessed. July, Maldives anniversary trip, #living our best life. August, furniture delivery day, this section'll cost more than most people's cars. September, shopping spree for the new boutique, #the gilded lily, #entrepreneur life. October, custom closet installation, dreams do come true. There was no boutique, no business, no property improvements. They'd taken out a loan against my house and spent it on toys. And the most recent post from 2 days ago, big announcement coming soon, can't wait to share our next chapter. I felt cold. So cold the library's heating couldn't touch it. They weren't just living in my house. They were about to do something else with it. Something final. I pulled out the business card James had given me, stared at the number written on the back. I had been afraid to call, afraid Grandpa would be angry at me, disappointed, disgusted that I'd ended up in a shelter. But now I understood. He didn't know. He thought I was living in luxury while I shivered on a cot, and my family, my own blood, had orchestrated every lie. I picked up my phone and dialed. Hayes Logistics, Mr. Hayes' office. The voice was crisp, professional. Mrs. Chen, the executive assistant who'd been with Grandpa for 20 years. Mrs. Chen, this is Emma Hayes, Robert's granddaughter. A pause. Emma, how lovely to hear from you. Your grandfather will be so pleased. He's been trying to reach you for months. The floor dropped out from under me. He's been trying? Oh, yes. He calls your number weekly. Always gets a message that the subscriber isn't accepting calls. He's been quite worried, but your mother assured him you were just incredibly busy with school. I closed my eyes. Mrs. Chen, I need to speak with him. It's urgent. Of course. Let me see if he's available. 1 moment. 30 seconds of hold music. Then, Emma. His voice. Gruff, authoritative, but with an undercurrent of relief that made my throat tight. Grandpa, I whispered. Where are you? I've been calling. Patricia said you were in intense rotations, that you'd call when you had time, but... He stopped. You sound strange. Are you all right? No, I said. I'm not all right. And then I told him. Everything. The rent increases, the financial abuse, being kicked out with 3 days' notice, the shelter, finding out about the townhouse through James, the forged signature, the LLC, the $300,000 loan they'd taken against my house. I told him about the overheard conversation on the porch, about my mother's Venmo to Jessica while denying me textbook money, about Tyler's biometric locks on a door that wasn't his. I told him I'd been homeless for 4 months while they threw champagne parties in my living room. The silence on the other end was so complete I thought the call had dropped. Grandpa? I'm here. His voice was different now, quiet, lethal. The voice I remembered from childhood when a supplier tried to cheat him, when a competitor played dirty. The voice that preceded absolute destruction. Where are you right now? Public library, downtown branch. Stay there. Don't move. I'm sending James to get you right now. We're going to the Pierre Hotel. I'm calling my attorney. Grandpa, I have a shift at the hospital tomorrow at 6. No, you don't, he said. You're not going anywhere until we fix this. Do you understand me? Yes. Emma. He paused. I gave you a house, a home, a safe place. Safe? And they took it from you. They took it and they let you sleep in a goddamn shelter. His voice cracked slightly on the last word. They're going to pay for this, he said. Not with money. I don't care about the money. They're going to pay with their dignity, their reputation, everything they've built on your broken back. Okay, I whispered. James will be there in 20 minutes. Wait outside the main entrance. I will. And Emma, you're not going back to that shelter. You're never going back there. You hear me? Yes, Grandpa. Good. See you soon. The line went dead. I sat in the library chair, phone in my lap, and realized I was crying. Not from sadness, from relief. Someone finally believed me. Someone finally saw. The Pierre Hotel suite had been transformed into a command center. The breakfast cart was gone, replaced by a long table covered in files, laptops, legal pads. The air smelled of expensive coffee and printer toner. Grandpa Robert sat at the head of the table, looking every inch the corporate titan in his charcoal suit. Across from him, William Foster, his personal attorney, silver-haired, granite-faced, with eyes that missed nothing. I sat between them, hands wrapped around tea, feeling small but strangely powerful. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one being scrutinized. I was holding the magnifying glass. Let's begin with the property title, Foster said. He slid a document toward me. This is the original deed transfer from your grandfather's trust to you, dated February 14th of last year, properly filed, legally binding. I looked at the paper. Emma Hayes, black ink, official seal. I owned a house, had owned a house while scrubbing toilets at 2 a.m. And this, Foster slid a second document on top, is the quit-claim deed filed 3 months later. The transfer, Emma Hayes to Brooks Hayes Lifestyle, LLC, for the sum of $1. Who is Brooks Hayes Lifestyle, LLC? I asked, though I knew. Foster tapped his laptop, turned the screen toward me. Registered agents Tyler Brooks and Jessica Hayes. Business purpose, real estate management and boutique retail. They started a company to steal my house. Look at the signature, Robert said quietly. I looked at the bottom of the quit-claim deed, above the line labeled Grantor, Emma Hayes. It looked like mine, same loop, same slant, but it was wrong. The pressure too shaky, too deliberate. Someone drawing a signature, not signing naturally. That's not me, I said. I never signed this. We know, Foster said. We've already had a forensic handwriting analyst examine it. He's 99% certain it's a forgery. The pen lifts are unnatural. It's a drawing of a signature, not a signature itself. But how did they get it notarized? I asked. You have to show ID, be there in person. Foster pulled out another sheet. Profile of a man named Ray Gibson. Mr. Gibson is a notary public operating out of a strip mall 3 towns over. He's been flagged twice for improper record keeping. My guess is Tyler or your father paid him a few hundred to look the other way. Or perhaps Jessica used your old student ID. You two look similar enough that a lazy notary wouldn't question it. It gets worse, Robert said. His voice vibrated with suppressed rage. Show her the mortgage. Foster produced a thick stack of papers. Once the property was in the LLC's name, they didn't just sit on it. They leveraged it. Home equity line of credit, $300,000. I gasped. $300,000? They claimed it was for business expansion, Foster explained. Jessica's been posting about opening a boutique called The Gilded Lily. She hasn't. We traced the loan disbursements. No storefront lease, no inventory purchases. The money went to luxury car dealerships, high-end furniture stores, and a travel agency. They're eating the house, Robert said coldly. Stripping the equity to fund their lifestyle. Foster cleared his throat. There's one more thing. He looked at Robert, who nodded grimly. Last August, your parents filed a civil petition claiming they couldn't locate you. They told a judge you were erratic, possibly unstable, and needed legal authority to receive your mail on your behalf to ensure bills were paid. My mouth fell open. I was sleeping in their den, I whispered, cooking their meals. They committed perjury, Foster said. Lied to a judge to get a court order diverting your mail, tax notices, deed transfers, bank statements, to a P.O. box they controlled. That's why you never saw anything, Robert said. They built a legal wall around you using lies. I stood up, walked to the window, stared at the city. They planned this, I said. This wasn't impulse. They went to court, created an LLC, found a corrupt notary. This was a conspiracy. Yes, Robert said. Foster was still typing on his laptop when his expression changed. He went very still. Robert, he said quietly, we have a problem. He turned the screen around. It was a website, the multiple listing service used by real estate agents. A property listing marked Coming Soon, 42 Briarcrest Lane, Briarcrest Heights. Stunning modern townhouse, fully renovated. Motivated sellers, $725,000. The listing included photos, professional staging, the living room with those 12-foot ceilings, the kitchen with marble countertops, the master bedroom that was supposed to be mine. They're selling it? I asked, voice hollow. The listing went live 20 minutes ago, Foster said. It's not officially active yet, still in pre-market phase, but they've hired an agent, set a price. They're moving forward. Robert's hands curled into fists on the armrests of his chair. Why? I asked. They just moved in. Why sell already? Because they're greedy, Robert said. Or because Tyler looked at the numbers and realized they burned through the loan too fast, or… He paused. They sense walls closing in. Foster nodded. If they sell to a bona fide purchaser, an innocent family who buys in good faith, it becomes extremely difficult to get the property back. We'd have to sue for damages, and by then the money's gone. I felt dizzy. If I'd stayed in the shelter one more week, it would have been gone, Robert finished. But we caught them at the cliff's edge. I looked at him. What do we do? Call the police? Not yet, Robert said. Police are a blunt instrument. This is white-collar crime. It requires a scalpel. He turned to Foster. File the injunction. Foster nodded. I have a lis pendens ready to file with the county clerk. The moment I file, the property is frozen. No title company will ensure a sale. They can't sell, refinance, or transfer it. File it, Robert ordered. But don't serve them the papers yet. Let the system catch it. Let them find out when their realtor calls in a panic. Foster hit a button on his laptop. Done. It's filed. Robert turned to me. Now we need your part. My part? I asked. Foster and I can prove the fraud, Robert said. But to destroy their narrative that they're loving parents and you're the ungrateful, unstable child, we need to prove the abuse, the financial coercion. I have the notebook, I said. I started writing it down. Good, Robert nodded. But we need more. We need witnesses. I thought of the shelter, of Sarah Mitchell. Sarah, I said. Sarah Mitchell. She's a counselor at Harbor Light. She saw me when I came in. She knows I was working 3 jobs. She helped me document everything. Call her, Robert said. Get her on record. And I want you to go through your bank statements for the last 3 years, every withdrawal, every contribution. Find the patterns. Did they ask for money the same day Jessica bought a purse? Did they hike rent the same week Tyler invested in a new scheme? He leaned forward. We're going to build a timeline so detailed that when we walk into court, the judge won't just see a family dispute. He'll see systematic extraction of wealth. I spent the next 4 hours at that table with a highlighter and printed bank statements. November 3. Withdrawal $650. November 3. Jessica's Instagram. Spa day. Self-care. December 1. Withdrawal $650. December 2. Tyler's Instagram. New gaming rig. Beast mode. On and on. Thousands of dollars. Money I'd bled for. It had all gone directly to their vanity. I called Sarah Mitchell. She answered on the second ring. Emma? Sarah's voice was warm with relief. You checked out of Harbor Light. I was worried. Are you safe? I'm safe, I said. I'm with my grandfather. Sarah, I need your help. I need a statement about the condition I was in when I arrived, about what I told you. You have it, she said without hesitation. I kept your file, Emma. I noted the malnutrition, the exhaustion, and I noted that you refused to apply for emergency assistance because you said you had jobs, plural, 3 of them. Her voice hardened. I'll testify to whatever you need. Those people shouldn't get away with treating a dog the way they treated you. By 6 p.m., the table was covered in evidence. Forged deed, fraudulent court order, mortgage documents showing waste of funds, timeline of financial abuse. Sarah's written statement. Foster stacked the papers into neat piles. He looked at Robert. We have enough to bury them, he said. We could have the sheriff there by midnight. No, Robert said. He stood, walked to the window, looked out at the darkening city. Why not? I asked. They're selling the house. They're trying to run. Robert pulled out his phone, opened an email, showed it to me. It was forwarded from a business associate, someone my parents didn't know was loyal to Robert. A digital invitation. The Hayes family invites you to a grand housewarming gala, celebrating our new chapter in Briarcrest Heights, Saturday, 7 p.m., cocktails, hors d'oeuvres, big announcements. They're throwing a party, I said slowly. This Saturday, Robert said. They're trying to cement their status. They want the neighbors to see them. They want social validation. He looked at me, eyes cold and hard as diamonds. We're not sending the sheriff to knock on the door in the middle of the night, he said. We're going to let them have their party. Let them put on their best clothes. Let them fill that house with witnesses. And then? I asked. And then we walk in, Robert said. The injunction is filed, but notice won't be served until I say so. I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel victorious. He took a sip of water, set the glass down with a definitive click. The night they plan to host their party will be the night they sign their ruin. They want an audience? Fine, we'll give them a show they'll never forget. I looked at the invitation on the screen. Saturday, 3 days away. I'll be ready, I said. Robert nodded. I know you will. Now get some rest. Tomorrow we go shopping. If we're crashing a gala, you're not wearing borrowed clothes. You're going to look like the owner. Thursday morning, 2 days before the party. Robert sat by the telephone in the hotel suite. He looked like a man about to close a deal, not destroy his daughter. He dialed, put it on speaker. I sat across from him, hands shaking. Dad! Patricia's voice, chirpy and breathless. I didn't expect to hear from you again so soon. I have news, Robert said, voice booming with fake warmth. The Zurich negotiations wrapped early. I'm flying back Saturday afternoon. Pause. Then, that's amazing. Oh my God, Dad, the timing is perfect. I could hear the wheels turning in her head, the social capital of having Robert Hayes at her party. You have to come to the house. We're having a little gathering, a housewarming, Saturday night. A gathering? Robert asked, feigning ignorance. I thought Emma was quarantining. Oh, she is. Patricia lied smoothly, effortlessly. She'll be upstairs in her room, with noise-canceling headphones. She's so focused she probably won't even know there's a party, but we'd love to show you the place, and Jessica and Tyler are dying to see you. I sat there listening to my mother erase me in real time, placing me upstairs in my own house like a ghost they could pretend existed. Well, that sounds delightful, Robert said. I'd hate to intrude on Emma's study time, though. You won't hear a peep from her, Patricia promised. Honestly, she's so buried in work she might not emerge until graduation. All right then, Robert said. I'll be there. 7 o'clock. 7 is perfect, Patricia was ecstatic. Oh, Dad, this makes everything complete. We've missed you so much. I've missed you too, Patricia, Robert said. His voice was warm honey. You have no idea. He hung up. The smile vanished instantly, replaced by cold fury. She took the bait, he said. She thinks she won, I said quietly. She has no idea what's coming, Robert said, and neither does anyone else. That night, I couldn't help myself. I checked Jessica's Instagram stories. The first video showed the living room of 42 Briarcrest Lane, decorated with hundreds of white roses, caterers setting up champagne towers. Jessica's voice chirped from behind the camera. "Sneak peek! The launch party is going to be insane! Look at these flowers! Classy, right?" She panned to the window, the view I'd seen in property photos, sunset over Briarcrest Heights. The next video showed Tyler at the front door in a tuxedo, holding scotch. "Final perimeter check," he said, grinning. "Got the new security system online. Biometric locks, baby. Nobody gets in unless invited. We run a tight ship here, exclusive access only." I stared at my phone screen. "He changed the locks," I said, "with fingerprint scanners." Robert looked over. "On a house he doesn't own." "He's confessing," I said. "On Instagram, every time he uses that scanner, he's creating evidence of unauthorized access." Robert's cold smile returned. "Pride comes before the fall." He stood up. "Get some rest, Emma. Saturday, we end this." Saturday, 7 p.m. The Lincoln Town Car glided to a stop in front of 42 Briarcrest Lane. I sat in the back seat looking at the house that should have been my sanctuary. 3 stories of pale brick with black shutters, every window glowing warm against the winter darkness, jazz music floating out into the cold air. The street was lined with expensive cars, Mercedes, BMWs, Lexuses. My family had managed to draw quite a crowd. I was wearing a black structured dress that Robert had insisted on buying from a boutique where there were no price tags. My hair had been professionally styled into a sleek bob. The dark circles under my eyes, remnants of 4 months of malnutrition, just made me look sharp, angular, dangerous. "Are you ready?" Robert asked from the front seat. I looked at my hands. No tremor. The fear was gone, burned away by cold resolve. "I won't blink," I said. We stepped out of the car. The cold air hit me, but I didn't feel it. I felt nothing but purpose. We walked up the path toward the front door. Tyler was standing there in a tuxedo that was slightly too tight, shaking hands with a couple I recognized from my parents' old country club. He looked like the lord of the manor, all confidence and champagne. He saw Robert first. His face lit up with sycophantic delight. "Robert, you made it!" He extended his hand. "So glad you could." Then he saw me. The grin didn't just fade, it shattered. His eyes went wide, darting from Robert to me, then down to my dress, then back to my face. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. "Emma," he stammered, What are you doing here?" Robert didn't slow down. He walked straight toward Tyler with such authority that Tyler had to step back into the foyer or be trampled. "We're here for the announcement," Robert said, his voice carrying over the music. We stepped across the threshold. I was inside my house. The air smelled of expensive perfume and white roses. The space was packed with people in cocktail attire, glasses of champagne in hand, conversations buzzing. My mother was by the fireplace with the Homeowners Association president. Jessica was posing for photos near the grand staircase. They didn't see us yet. Robert squeezed my hand once, tight, reassuring, then let go. He took a deep breath, his chest expanding. The music was playing. People were chatting and laughing. And then, Robert Pierce shouted. The moment Robert's voice erupted, the entire room seemed to freeze. "Stop acting!" The shout was so loud, so sudden that it vibrated in my chest. The music stopped. A waiter dropped a tray, the crash of breaking glass echoing in the stunned silence. Every head turned toward the door. Patricia was the first to react. She was standing near the fireplace, mid-laugh with 3 women in designer dresses. When she saw me, her eyes widened in genuine shock, but her social conditioning kicked in instantly. She plastered on a wide, frantic smile and rushed toward us, her cream-colored dress swishing around her ankles. "Dad!" she exclaimed, voice pitching too high. "And Emma! Oh my goodness!" She reached out as if to hug me, but stopped 2 feet away when she saw my face. She pivoted immediately, turning to address the room with a brittle laugh. "Everyone, look who decided to join us! My father, Robert Hayes, and my daughter, Emma! We thought Emma was too buried in her studies upstairs to come down, but I guess she couldn't resist. This is not your house, Robert said. His voice was quiet now, controlled, somehow more terrifying than the shout. Patricia's smile froze. None of this belongs to you, Robert continued, sweeping his arm across the room. The crown molding, the furniture, the guests. You are trespassers. My father, David, came rushing over from the bar, face pale, sweating through his tuxedo shirt. Dad, please, he hissed, trying to keep his voice low. You're making a scene. People are watching. Let's go to the study. Talk about this like family. Family? Robert laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound that made several guests shift uncomfortably. There's no family here, David. Only thieves. You misunderstand, David stammered, looking nervously at the crowd. The paperwork, it's complicated. We handled it for Emma, to protect her. You protected me, I spoke up, my voice not as loud as Robert's, but carrying clearly in the silent room. By putting me in a homeless shelter. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. I saw the HOA president cover her mouth with her hand. Jessica came storming down the staircase, face flushed with fury. Her big night, her gilded moment was being ruined. Oh my God, stop it! She shrieked. You are being so dramatic, Emma. Nobody put you in a shelter. You chose to leave. You're 24 years old. Stop playing victim just because you're jealous that we made something of this place and you couldn't. Robert didn't even look at her. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He walked to the antique side table in the center of the room, the one holding a massive crystal vase of white roses, and shoved the vase aside. Water sloshed onto the polished wood. He slammed the envelope down. William, he said. William Foster stepped out from the shadows near the entryway. He looked like the Grim Reaper in a bespoke suit, moving with quiet precision to the table. He opened the envelope and pulled out documents. Ladies and gentlemen, Foster said, his voice dry and professional and absolutely devastating. If you are currently enjoying the hospitality of the Hayes family, you should know that you are standing on stolen property. He held up the first document. This is the deed to 42 Briarcrest Lane, dated February 14th of last year. The sole legal owner of this property is Miss Emma Hayes. He held up the second document. This is a quitclaim deed filed 3 months later, purporting to transfer ownership to an entity known as Brooks Hayes Lifestyle LLC. Forensic analysis has confirmed that the signature of Miss Emma Hayes on this document is a forgery. That's a lie, Tyler shouted from the doorway. She signed it. She forgot. She's on medication. Foster ignored him completely. He held up a third document. Furthermore, this property was encumbered with a $300,000 home equity line of credit. The funds from this loan, legally intended for property improvement, have been traced directly to personal accounts held by Tyler Brooks and Jessica Hayes, including purchases for luxury vehicles, designer clothing, and international travel. The room erupted in whispers. Guests were backing away from my parents like they were contagious. Jessica's face turned violent red. She marched up to me, finger pointing in my face. You ungrateful little brat, she hissed. We did this for you. You couldn't handle a house like this. You work in a diner. We were managing the asset, keeping it safe until you were ready. I looked at my sister, at the diamond earrings she was wearing, bought with equity stripped from my walls. To keep something for someone, I said calmly. You have to tell them it exists, Jessica. I didn't know I owned this house until 3 days ago. We were going to tell you, Patricia cried out, tears streaming down her face. She pushed forward, mascara running. Emma, honey, please tell them. Tell them we love you. We were going to surprise you at graduation. We just needed a place to stay temporarily and we thought we'd warm it up for you. You were going to surprise me? I asked quietly. Yes, Patricia sobbed. We love you. I would never keep you from your home. I've been so worried. Robert held up his phone. Let's hear how worried you were, he said. He tapped the screen. The phone connected to a portable speaker Foster had placed on the table. Robert hit play. My mother's voice filled the room through the speaker, crystal clear. Oh, she loves it. She really does. It's her little castle. She's in a very intense rotation right now. Infectious diseases. She's terrified of exposing anyone. She's basically quarantining in the house. She told us specifically, no visitors until I pass my boards. She's locked in with her books. The recording ended. Patricia froze. The color drained from her face until she looked like a corpse standing in a cream dress. "You told me she was upstairs," Robert said to the room, his voice shaking with controlled rage. "You told me she was happy. At the exact moment you said those words, Emma was sleeping on a cot in Harbor Lights Student Haven because you changed the locks and refused to give her the address." He turned to face the crowd. "My granddaughter has been homeless for 4 months," Robert said, "while these people lived in her house, spent her credit, and threw parties in her name." The judgment was absolute. People were setting down their champagne glasses, moving toward the door. Nobody wanted to be associated with this. Tyler saw the tide turning. Panic flickered across his face. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered. We have squatters' rights. We've established residency. You can't just kick us out." Foster stepped forward again, pulling another sheaf of papers from his briefcase. "Actually, Mr. Brooks," he said, "because the residency was established through fraud and forgery, you have no rights. And because the value of the theft exceeds $100,000, this is no longer a civil matter." He motioned toward the door. 2 men in suits, the process servers, stepped forward. Behind them, a sheriff's deputy in uniform. "David Hayes, Patricia Hayes, Jessica Hayes, Tyler Brooks," the deputy said formally. "I am serving you with an immediate order to vacate. You have 30 minutes to collect essential personal items and leave the premises. Furthermore, you are all named as subjects in an active investigation regarding real estate fraud and identity theft." The word investigation broke them. The facade didn't just crack, it exploded. "I didn't sign anything!" Jessica screamed. She wheeled on Tyler, her face contorted with rage. "This was your idea! You said you knew a notary! You said Emma was too stupid to check public records." "Me?" Tyler's voice cracked. "You're the one who wanted the boutique. You're the one who needed the loan for your image. I just tried to make you happy." "Both of you, shut up!" David snapped, but there was no authority in his voice. He slumped onto the sofa, my sofa, and put his head in his hands. "It's over, Patricia. They have the paper trail. We're done." "No!" Patricia wailed, grabbing David's lapels. "Do something! Fix this!" Jessica ran toward the dining table where an elaborate spread of hors d'oeuvres sat on silver platters. She grabbed a silver candelabra. "This is mine!" she shrieked. "I bought this!" "Actually," Foster said coolly, "that was purchased with the credit line attached to the house. It stays." Jessica threw it on the floor. It clattered loudly, leaving a dent in the hardwood. "I hate you!" she screamed at me. "You ruin everything! You always have! You selfish, jealous little witch!" I stood there in my black dress and watched her tantrum. It didn't hurt. It didn't scare me. It just looked pathetic. A grown woman throwing a fit because her stolen toys were being taken away. "I'm not selfish, Jessica," I said quietly. "I'm just the landlord, and your lease is up." The deputy stepped forward. "Ma'am, you need to step outside now." Tyler looked at the expensive electronics he'd installed, the biometric lock on the door, the sound system, the security cameras. "Wait, can we at least take the—" "Everything stays," Foster said. "Everything purchased with the fraudulent loan is considered part of the property asset until the investigation concludes." "We have nothing!" Patricia sobbed. "Where are we supposed to go?" "That," Robert said coldly, "is no longer my concern." It took 20 minutes to clear the house. The guests fled like rats from a sinking ship, desperate to distance themselves from the scandal. I heard snippets of whispered conversations as they hurried out. "Can you believe? Always thought something was off." Poor girl, imagine. The caterers packed up their trays in awkward silence, avoiding eye contact with everyone. A man in a chef's coat apologized quietly to me as he passed. "Congratulations on your home, miss." My family, my parents, my sister, and her husband were escorted by the deputy through the house to gather belongings. They could take clothes, toiletries, personal documents, nothing else. They came down the stairs carrying armfuls of designer outfits thrown hastily into garbage bags. The irony wasn't lost on me. They were leaving exactly the way I had left, black plastic bags and shattered dignity. Patricia stopped at the front door, mascara streaked down her face. She looked at Robert with desperate, pleading eyes. "Dad," she sobbed, "please." "Where are we supposed to go? We sold the old house. We have no money. What are we going to do?" Robert stood next to me, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder, a gesture of solidarity, of protection. "You have legs," he said quietly. "You have your health. You have your independence." His voice was calm, but there was finality in it like a door closing forever. "But the will," Patricia choked out. "The trust, the inheritance." "I updated my estate plan this morning," Robert said. "Everything I own, every stock, every property, every cent, is now in a blind trust for Emma." He paused, letting that sink in. "You're disinherited. All of you." Patricia's knees buckled. David had to catch her. "Additionally," Robert continued, leaning in closer, "William has filed a restraining order. If any of you contact Emma, if you come near this house, if you try to beg her for money, if you so much as send her a text message, the trust will automatically fund a relentless legal prosecution against you. Criminal charges, civil suits, whatever it takes. Do you understand?" David nodded mutely, all the fight gone out of him. Patricia looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in years. She was searching for the daughter who used to clean her kitchen, cook her meals, and pay her bills without complaint. She didn't find her. "Goodbye, Mother," I said. The words were simple, final, a door closing on 24 years of being used. Patricia made a sound, raw, ugly, broken, and stumbled out into the night, supported by David. Jessica and Tyler followed, Jessica still crying, Tyler staring at the ground in shame. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Silence descended on the house, but it wasn't oppressive. It was clean, peaceful. The poison was gone. I looked around the room. White roses still sat in vases. Half-empty champagne glasses dotted the tables. The space was beautiful but felt foreign, decorated by Jessica's taste, staged for Jessica's fantasy. Robert walked to the sofa and sat down heavily. He suddenly looked every one of his 72 years. "Are you okay?" I asked, sitting beside him. "No," he admitted. His voice was tired. "No father is okay after doing that." He looked at me, and I saw pain in his eyes beneath the anger. "I shouted," he said quietly. "I made a spectacle. I hate spectacles." "You had to," I said. "They wouldn't have heard anything less." "I shouted," he repeated, "because I needed to make enough noise to pull you out of the darkness they put you in. I needed to break the spell they'd cast, the one that made you think you deserved this treatment." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. He opened it carefully. Inside was a single brass key. "This is the original key to the back door," he said. "The one lock they were too lazy to change because it's not visible from the street." He placed it in my palm. It was cold and heavy. "This is yours," he said. "It always was." My fingers closed around it. "Thank you, Grandpa," I whispered. "Don't thank me," he said, standing up with a grunt. "Just live. Live well. That's the only revenge that matters in the end." He buttoned his coat. "William and I are going back to the hotel. More paperwork to file in the morning. Criminal complaints, restitution claims. You're welcome to come with us, or—" "I'll stay," I said. He studied my face. "Are you sure?" I looked around the room. It was big, empty, silent. But it was mine. "I'm sure." He kissed my forehead, a rare gesture of affection. "Lock the door behind me," he said. And then he was gone. I walked to the front door, looked out at the quiet street. The Lincoln was pulling away, tail lights disappearing around the corner. The last guest's cars were gone. The street was empty. I closed the door. The latch clicked. Solid, mechanical, final. I locked it. Then I slid down to sit on the floor of my foyer, back against the door, knees pulled to my chest. For the first time in 4 months, I was alone because I chose to be. Not because I'd been discarded. Not because I had nowhere else to go. Because this was my home, and I wanted to be here. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of roses and something else. Victory, maybe. Or just the absence of fear. A single tear rolled down my cheek. But I wasn't sad. I was free. 6 months later, I walked across the stage at Lakewood Institute of Health. Emma Hayes, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, magna cum laude. Applause filled the auditorium. I looked out at the crowd and found him easily, the white-haired man in the front row holding a bouquet of wildflowers, not roses. Wildflowers. Grandpa Robert waved. I waved back. I didn't move into 42 Briarcrest Lane. I couldn't. The memories of Jessica's decorating, Tyler's biometric locks, the party where everything fell apart. It was all too much. That house would never feel like mine, so I sold it. Used the money to buy a small condo near Northbridge Medical Center. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 8th floor with a view of the city. It was modest, clean, and completely mine. I took a job in the ER. I loved the pace, the chaos, the precision, the feeling of making a difference in people's lives during their worst moments. Every month, on the 1st, I wrote a check for $2,000, not to my parents, to Harbor Light Student Haven. I attached a note. For scholarships, for new mattresses, for the ones still treading water. Sarah Mitchell called me after the first donation. A girl in bed 42 asked who the donor was, she said. Tell her, I said. It was someone who made it out. I never heard from my family again. The restraining order held. Sometimes I wondered if they thought about me. If Patricia felt guilt, if David felt shame, if Jessica ever looked in the mirror and saw the ugliness inside her beauty. But mostly, I didn't think about them at all. I was too busy living. One evening, I sat in my living room, my actual, legal, undisputed living room, with a cup of tea and the old spiral notebook Sarah had given me at the shelter. I opened it, read through the entries. November 1st. Rent increased to $650, December 10th. Denied textbook money. January 15th. Evicted January 16th. Homeless page after page of evidence. Of pain. Of systematic abuse. I closed the notebook. On the cover, I wrote in permanent marker, the story of how I learned that kindness is precious. But if you give it to people who use it as ammunition, you're not being kind. You're being a target. I put it in a drawer. I wasn't a target anymore. I was a nurse, a homeowner, a survivor. I was the one holding the pen, and I was writing my own story now.